The signal in the dark, the night shift on Station Orpheus, was usually quiet. The human listening post drifted on the edge of known space, far from trade routes and colonies. Most nights, the crew drank coffee, told old war stories, and fought. Boredom. But tonight was different. Technician Mark Hensley almost spilled his mug when his console lit up. A sound weak, broken, but real echoed through the static. His heart skipped. For weeks, only silence filled the void. Now a voice trembled across the speakers. "Help us, anyone, please." It wasn't human. The tone was strange, the syllables stretched and warped. Still, it carried something universal. Desperation. "Commander, you need to hear this," Mark whispered. Commander Reyes leaned over, eyes narrowing. The message repeated, clearer this time. "We are under attack. Our world burns, please. Help us or we die." Reyes froze. The words were not meant for humans, but they reached them all the same. The crew exchanged uneasy looks. In deep space, cries like this were rare, and rare things were often dangerous. The commander ordered the signal boosted. A wave of static filled the room, followed by more voices, some crying, others screaming. Explosions rumbled in the background. Lieutenant Harper muttered, "This isn't a distress call. This is a nightmare." The signal cut and returned with one chilling line. A voice, low and broken, said, "Deathworlders, if you hear us, come." The room went silent. The crew stared at each other. The word Deathworlders was what aliens called humans born on a hostile planet, survivors of disease, famine, and war. To hear it in the message meant one thing. Whoever sent this knew exactly who they wanted. Ree's jaw tightened. How? Do they know about us? This is supposed to be a secure relay. Mark swallowed hard. Maybe someone told them. Maybe they've been watching us. The commander sent the signal to Earth Command, tagging it as urgent. As they waited for a reply, tension filled the station. Some whispered it was a trap. Others whispered something worse, that the aliens truly needed help. But the enemy was so powerful, even the Galactic Council refused to act. Hours crawled by until Earth Command responded. The order was simple but heavy. Hold position. Await. Council decision. Do not engage. The crew erupted. Do not engage? Harper slammed a fist on the console. They're begging for help. Reyes kept his voice calm, but his eyes burned with the same anger. Orders are orders, but we'll stay on the line. Mark turned back to his console. The signal repeated, weaker now, like the last breath of a dying man. Please, if you hear us, Deathworlders, answer. For the next 2 nights, no one slept. They replayed the message again and again, each time hearing new sound shrieks, weapons fire, the collapse of buildings. Mark swore he could hear children crying dot by. The 3rd night, the signal flickered dangerously. Soon, it would be gone forever. Reyes called a private meeting. Only a few trusted crew sat around the small briefing table. The commander's voice was low. The council will ignore this, he said. We all know it. They've done it before. They say some species are expendable. No one argued. They'd all heard the stories. Civilizations erased, their cries lost in silence, while the great powers turned away. But these people, Reyes continued, they called us, not the council. Us. Harper leaned forward. So what do we do? Sit here and watch them die? Mark finally spoke, his voice shaking. If it was us, if Earth burned, wouldn't we want someone to answer? The silence that followed was heavier than any order. Suddenly, the console chimed again. The signal, now faint, carried a final, broken whisper. They are coming for. Use, if you are Deathworlders, come with fire, or we fall. The room went cold. No one breathed. The message ended in static, and this time it did not return. Commander Reyes stood, fists clenched. Prepare a full report for Earth, but make no mistake. If command does nothing... He looked around at his crew, each one pale but determined. Then we will. Mark felt a chill crawl down his spine. He glanced out the window at the endless sea of stars. Somewhere out there, a world was burning. And now, humans had to choose. Would they obey orders? Or would they become the fire that answered the call? Asterisk, the Council's decision, approximately 800 words. The Council chamber was a place of whispers and shadows. Tall spires of crystal stretched into the sky, filled with the rulers of many alien races. They sat high above, looking down at the petitioners like gods judging mortals. Their voices echoed in dozens of languages, layered into one cold decision. The human delegation arrived late. Admiral Hayes, tall and scarred from old battles, led the group. His sharp eyes scanned the room, but the faces that looked back at him were empty. Some were bored, some were mocking. A few were even afraid. The council speaker, a thin alien with pale skin and lidless eyes, struck the podium. "We have received reports of a distress signal," he said, "but we must be wise. This war is not ours." Holoscreens lit up around the chamber. The message played again, the alien voices crying for help, the explosions, the final desperate plea. Deathworlders, come with fire. The chamber erupted with noise. Some shouted it was a trap. Others said the species was weak and unworthy of saving. A few muttered that humans were fools to even listen. Admiral Hayes raised his hand. "They called for us. Not you, not anyone else. Us." His voice carried like thunder. And humanity does not ignore a cry for help. The speaker's eyes narrowed. "You are reckless. Do you know who attacked them? Do you understand the enemy you are about to provoke?" "Then tell us who they are," Hayes demanded, but silence followed. None of the council members answered. Their eyes shifted, avoiding. His gaze. Finally, one alien elder spoke, voice trembling. "The attackers are powerful, too powerful. If we stand against them, they will burn us all. It is better to let one world fall than risk the galaxy." Murmurs of agreement filled the hall. Cold words, spoken like logic, but soaked in fear. Hayes slammed his hand on the table. "You call yourselves leaders, yet you let innocents die to protect yourselves? Humanity will not stand for this." The speaker hissed, "You will obey the vote." The council rejects intervention. The signal is to be ignored. This meeting is over. With a strike of his staff, the decision was sealed. The human delegation stormed out. Reporters and envoys followed them through the corridors, shouting questions. Hayes said nothing, only walked with iron in his stride, outside, in the eye. Cold halls of the station, his officers gathered. "What now, Admiral?" One asked. Hayes looked at them, his jaw tight. "Command wants us to wait. The Council wants us to do nothing. But the people who sent that signal, they are running out of time." Captain Rourke, younger and fiery, growled. "Then we go without them." The group fell silent. Disobeying. The Council meant exile. Disobeying Earth Command meant court-martial. But disobeying their own conscience meant something worse. Hayes finally spoke, voice low but steady. "Prepare the fleet." That night, in the human war room, holomaps lit, up with alien stars. The distress call's origin system glowed red on the chart. Around it, enemy-controlled space shimmered like a storm cloud. Strategists warned it was suicide. Scouts reported enemy fleets, larger than anything humanity had faced before. But still, preparations continued. Ships were loaded. Soldiers drilled. Engineers whispered prayers over cannons. On the station's lower deck, Mark Hensley, The technician who first caught the signal watched the fleet come alive. He couldn't forget the voices he'd heard, crying into the dark. Every blast door closing, every engine roaring felt like an answer to that call. But doubts crept in. He remembered the strange part of the message. Deathworlders. Come with. Fire. Why ask for humans specifically? Why not the Council? Or anyone else? The question burned in his mind as the ships prepared to depart dock in the command chamber. Admiral Hayes stared at the star chart. If this is a trap, he said quietly, we will crush it. If it is real, then we will show the galaxy what it means when humanity answers. His officers nodded, fire in their eyes not far above them. Unseen, Council spies sent reports. Their whispers spread across the galaxy. The humans are moving. They march toward the signal, toward fire. And somewhere in the dark, on a broken world, survivors prayed the Deathworlders would come. Asterisk. First contact with fire, approximately 800 words. The fleet cut through the dark like a knife. Human warships, black and silver, moved in silence across the stars. Their engines burned blue, leaving trails of light against the endless void. Mark Hensley stood. At the observation deck of the flagship Resolute, rows of destroyers and cruisers flanked them, their cannons charged, their hulls ready for war. He should have felt proud. Instead, unease churned in his chest. The distress signal had gone silent. 2 days ago. No new messages, no cries for help. Just silence. Approaching target system, the navigator called. Admiral Hayes stepped forward. His eyes were sharp, his voice calm. Raise shields. Weapons hot, no mistakes. If this is real, we save lives. If it's a trap, he let the silence finish his words. The fleet entered the alien system. At once, the screens filled with fire. Dozens of ships waited for them, already armed. Not broken fleets of survivors. Not desperate refugees. These were warships, sharp and brutal, painted with the insignia of a predator empire. Ambush, shouted Captain Rourke. They were waiting for us. Enemy fire lit the void. Plasma bolts streaked toward the fleet. Explosions shook the first line of human destroyers. But humans were not prey. Return fire. Hayes roared. The Resolute's cannons boomed, launching kinetic rounds that tore through enemy shields. Human torpedoes streaked out, exploding into bright blossoms of fire. One alien cruiser split apart, breaking in half like a dying beast. Mark clung to his console, heart racing. The trap was real, but the enemy hadn't expected Deathworlders. Within minutes, space became chaos. Explosions rocked the stars. Fighters swarmed. Missiles screamed across the void. Human warships fought like wolves, tearing into the enemy lines. With savage precision. But still, the enemy kept coming. For every ship destroyed, 2 more appeared from the shadows of moons and gas clouds. They were ready for us, Harper muttered. Sweat dripped down his face. How did they know we would come? No one answered Dot as the battle raged. Mark's console flickered. Through the chaos, a faint signal broke through the static. Not from the enemy ships, this was different. Help, survivors, underground, we still alive. Mark's eyes went wide. Commander, I've got a real signal planet surface, southern continent. Survivors are still there. Reyes leaned over. Are you sure? Positive. It's weak, but it's real. They're not part of this ambush. Hayes made his decision instantly. Rourke, take 2 battalions. Get down there. Find them. The rest of us hold this line. Rourke grinned. Fire in his eyes. Aye, Admiral. Dropships launched from the carriers, streaking down through the atmosphere. Mark watched them vanish, his chest tight with fear. The battle above grew worse. Human ships were strong, but the enemy had numbers. Flames lit the dark as more destroyers fell. Suddenly, the enemy broadcast a message across all channels. Their voice was cold, mocking. Foolish Deathworlders. You heard a cry, and you rushed to it like children. You fight well, yes, but you will burn as they did. Admiral Hayes glared at the screen. Tell them this, he said. His gunnery officer nodded and fired a rail slug straight through. The enemy's flagship. The alien transmission cut with a scream, but still they came. Meanwhile, Rourke's dropships touched down on the planet. The ground was ash, the city's broken ruins. Fires still burned, black smoke rising to the sky. The soldiers moved fast, scanning the ruins, and then they found them. Hundreds of alien civilians huddled in underground shelters, thin, starving, terrified. Their eyes went wide at the sight of humans, but instead of fear, relief filled their faces. One of them stumbled forward, a frail elder with cracked skin. He grabbed Rourke's hand and whispered in broken words, You came, you really came. Before Rourke could answer, another survivor handed him a strange device small, glowing faintly. Her voice shook. Take this. It shows. Who betrayed? U.S. Rourke frowned, staring at the device. The words chilled him. Betrayed? By who? Above them, the sky thundered as the battle raged on. The Resolute shook from another hit. Mark looked at Admiral Hayes. Sir, if we stay here much longer, we're not leaving until Rourke returns. Hayes cut him off. The Admiral's eyes burned. The galaxy wanted us to turn our backs, but humanity answers calls for help, even if it kills us. The ship's alarms wailed. The enemy was regrouping, preparing for a massive push, and somewhere in the ruins below, Rourke stared at the device in his hand, the survivor's words echoing in his ears. It shows who betrayed us. Asterisk the hidden survivors, approximately 800 words. Smoke filled the ruined city. Human soldiers moved carefully through the ash, their boots crunching on broken stone. The survivors they had found were weak, trembling, their skin pale from hunger. Yet their eyes burned with hope. Captain Rourke scanned the group. Children clung to their parents, their ribs sharp under thin skin. The elder who had spoken before leaned on a cracked staff, his voice raspy. You came, the elder whispered. Again, we thought no one would. Rourke knelt down. We're here now. You're safe. The elder shook his head slowly. No, none of us are safe. He pressed the glowing device into Rourke's hands. It was small, smooth, and cold, its surface covered in strange runes. This holds the truth. It shows who called for you. And who betrayed us. Rourke frowned. What do you mean, betrayed? The elder coughed, blood on his lips. We sent our cry to the council. They ignored us. We begged again, this time. Someone answered, but it was not rescue. It was fire. The soldiers exchanged uneasy looks. Another survivor. A young alien girl with silver eyes spoke in broken English. They came with ships. They killed our leaders first. They burned the cities. Then they sent the message. Mark Hensley, listening through the comms from the Resolute, felt his stomach twist. You mean, the first signal wasn't from you? The girl shook her head. Tears streaked her ash-covered face. We called for help, but they twisted it. They made the trap they wanted. Humans. Rourke's grip tightened on the device. Why would anyone want to lure humans specifically? What enemy feared them so much that they set such a trap? Above, in orbit, the battle still raged. Admiral Hayes stood on the bridge, jaw clenched as reports came in. More human ships were damaged. Some were gone. The enemy pressed harder, as if desperate to keep them here. Trapped. Then Mark called from the lower deck. Admiral, you need to see this. The device flickered to life. A projection filled the room recording. The image showed a council chamber. Not the grand one Hayes had argued in, but a hidden meeting. Several alien leaders sat in the dark, their faces grim. One spoke clearly. Let the predators do it. Send the trap. Draw the humans in. If they die, the enemy bleeds. If they live, the enemy fears them more. The recording ended. The bridge fell silent. Hayes' voice was like steel. The council knew. Mark whispered, they didn't just ignore the cry. They used it. They threw us into this war. The realization hit hard. The survivors hadn't only been betrayed by their attackers. They'd been betrayed by the very powers sworn to protect them. Hayes' eyes burned with fury. So that's it. We weren't supposed to save anyone. We were bait. On the planet below, Rourke's squad guided the survivors toward the dropships. Children stumbled. Soldiers carried the weakest. But the elder refused to move. He stood in the ruins, eyes fixed on the sky. They will come again, he rasped. They will not let you leave with us. You carry the proof now. They will hunt. You for it. Rourke tightened his grip on the elder's arm. Then let them come. Humanity doesn't run. Explosions shook the ground. Enemy ships began to descend, sending fire into the ruins. The humans returned fire, holding the line. As civilians were rushed aboard the dropships, Mark's voice crackled through comms. Captain, you need to hurry. The Admiral says we're at the breaking point. We can't hold much longer. Rourke shoved the last child onto the dropship. The elder stayed behind, his eyes fierce. Go, he said. My time is done. But tell the galaxy. The Deathworlders answered when no one else would. The doors sealed, engines roared, and the dropships shot back toward the sky. Behind them, the elder vanished in fire dot. As they broke atmosphere, the survivors wept both. For those saved and those lost. Rourke sat in silence, the device heavy in his hand. When they docked with the Resolute, Hayes met them personally. The survivors bowed their heads in gratitude, but Hayes barely noticed. His eyes were fixed on the device. This changes everything. He muttered. Mark whispered, Sir, what now? Hayes looked at the star chart. His face was carved with rage. Now we stop asking questions. We start giving answers. The bridge alarm screamed as new fleets jumped into the system. Not survivors, not rescuers. Reinforcements ships larger. And deadlier than before. The Council had betrayed them. The enemy wanted them dead. And now, humanity stood alone against the fire. Asterisk. The enemy revealed. Approximately 800 words. The Resolute shook under heavy fire. Enemy ships swarmed like vultures, their cannons cutting through the void. On the bridge, alarm screamed. Sparks rained from the ceiling, but Admiral Hayes stood tall. Hold. The line, he ordered. Do not let them break us. Human warships fought like cornered beasts, slamming torpedoes into cruisers, shredding frigates with rail slugs. But for every alien ship destroyed, more appeared. It felt endless. Mark Hensley clutched his console, his knuckles white. Admiral, if they keep reinforcing, we can't. Hayes cut him off. Then we find out why they fear us so much. They sent half their fleet here to die. He turned to Captain Rourke, who stood nearby holding the alien device. Show us. Rourke placed the glowing object on the holodable. It pulsed, then lit the room with a flood of images. The survivor's warning came alive. The first recording showed the council chamber again, but this time clearer. Council leaders spoke quietly, thinking no one would hear. A pale-skinned elder hissed. The Deathworlders grow stronger. Their numbers increase. Their weapons advance. The Predator Empire fears them, and so do we. Another replied, then let them bleed. Each other. Send the false signal. If the humans survive, the Empire is weakened. If they fall, our problem ends. The room fell silent. The crew of the Resolute stared at the images in disbelief. Mark whispered, "They used us. We weren't rescuing anyone. We were bait." Rourke clenched his fists. Not just bait. They wanted proof of what humans can do. They wanted to see if we could fight the Empire and survive. Hayes' eyes burned with fury. So the Council and the Empire both want us dead. That's the truth. The device flickered again, showing one final recording. An alien commander of the enemy fleet leaned over a war table. His voice was cold and sharp. The humans call themselves survivors of a death world. But every survivor has a limit. Push them into fire. Break them before they rise too high. The galaxy cannot afford their kind. The recording ended. On the bridge, silence hung heavy. The crew stared at Hayes, waiting. Finally, Hayes spoke, his voice low but steady. "So now we know. We were never meant to win. The Council wanted us broken. The enemy wanted us erased. They fear what humanity might become." Mark swallowed. "Sir, what do we do?" Hayes turned to the windows, watching enemy ships circle like sharks. "What we always do. We fight back." At that moment, the enemy opened comms. A towering alien figure filled the screen, armored in bone and steel. His eyes glowed like embers. Deathworlders. He growled, his voice deep and mocking. "You think yourselves strong? You are nothing but children with stolen fire. You came to save the weak, but now you will join them in death." Hayes stepped forward, unflinching. "You made one mistake." The alien sneered. "And what mistake is that?" Hayes' voice was iron. "You reminded us why we fight." The transmission cut. "Fire everything." Hayes roared. The Resolute unleashed its full arsenal. Railguns thundered, missiles screamed, beams of light tore across the void. Human ships followed, striking back with brutal force. Enemy cruisers exploded one by one, their wreckage scattering across the stars. But still, the enemy pressed. For every ship that fell, 2 more took its place. Mark's console lit up again. "Admiral, there's something else. Another signal. Not from the Ye. Enemy. From deeper in the system." Hayes frowned, put it through. A faint image appeared. A hidden bunker, filled with more survivors. They were battered, bleeding, but alive. One of them shouted in broken English, "Deathworlders, they want you destroyed. The Empire fears you because you are the only ones who can stop them. They call you monsters, but to us you are hope." The feed cut as the bunker shook under bombardment. The crew stared, stunned. The words echoed in their minds. "You are the only ones who can stop them." Hayes exhaled slowly. The truth was clear now. Humanity had been marked. Not just as enemies. Not just as prey. But as a rising force the galaxy wanted gone. He looked at his officers. "We didn't choose this war. But it's ours now. The enemy wanted to see the fire of Deathworlders." His eyes blazed. "Then let them burn in it." The crew cheered, their fear turning into fury outside. The stars lit with fire as humanity prepared to unleash everything they had left. Asterisk firepower unleashed. Approximately 800 words. The void burned with war. Human ships, battered but unbroken, floated in. Formation. Around them, the enemy swarmed in endless waves, confident in their numbers. The Council had abandoned them. The Empire wanted them erased. But humanity had one weapon left, its will to fight. Admiral Hayes stood at the center of the bridge, eyes locked on the chaos beyond the windows. His voice cut through the alarms. "Every ship, prepare for full strike. No retreat, no surrender." The crew moved with grim focus. Mark's fingers flew across his console. "Admiral, we're at half strength. Shields are failing. If we push..." Everything now. Hayes cut him off. Then we push harder. If we fall here, we fall fighting. Captain Rourke stepped forward, holding the strange alien device tight. His jaw clenched. Sir, the survivors called us hope. Let's prove them right. The order went out. Across the fleet, ships prepared their deadliest weapons, railguns charged. Missile bays opened. Torpedo tubes glowed with fire. Humanity's arsenal, built on centuries of surviving their own brutal world, was ready. The enemy pushed closer, their flagship towering like a mountain of steel. Its cannons lit the dark, hurling plasma bolts that tore through human shields. The voice of its commander thundered across cones. Deathworlders, this is your grave. The galaxy will forget you. Hayes' lips curled into a grim smile. Not today. He raised his hand. Fire. The Resolute unleashed hell. A rail slug, the size of a bus, tore across space at hypersonic speed. It ripped through the enemy flagship's shields like paper and punched straight into its hull. The ship shuddered, then exploded in a sun-bright burst. Human missiles streaked outward, detonating in massive blossoms of fire. Enemy cruisers crumbled, frigates split apart. Fighters darted between them, gunning down alien swarms with savage precision. The void became a storm of death. Mark clung to his console as the ship shook. Reports poured in human vessels were burning, but so were the enemy. For the first time, the swarm faltered. Rourke grinned fiercely. They didn't expect this. They thought we'd break. They thought wrong. Still, the enemy regrouped. More ships poured from hyperspace, blotting out the stars. Humanity had made them bleed, but the Empire wanted them crushed completely. Hayes stared at the incoming fleet. If they want Deathworlders, give them Deathworlders. He tapped the command console, unlocking a final option. Mark's eyes went wide. Sir, that's the Planet Cracker Protocol. If we use it, Hayes' gaze was steel. If we don't, none of us leave this system alive. The order spread. Across the fleet, specialized warheads armed Ancient. Weapons designed not for defense, but for annihilation. Humanity had never dared to use them in open war. Until now, the enemy commander appeared again, his voice filled with disbelief. You wouldn't dare. You'd burn the stars themselves. Hayes' reply was calm. You called us Deathworlders. You should have believed it. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Enemy ships closed in, desperate to stop them. Plasma. Fire rained across the fleet, shredding hulls, ripping metal. But the humans held. 7, 6, 5. Mark's console screamed warnings. Shields down. Hull breach on the Vanguard. The Artemis is gone. 4, 3. Hayes stood unshaken. Steady. Hold. 2, 1. Fire. The warheads launched. Dozens of glowing spears streaked across the dark, slamming into the enemy fleet. The void erupted. Fire bloomed brighter than suns, tearing cruisers apart, shattering battleships into drifting debris. Shock waves rippled through the system, scattering. What remained of the Empire's fleet. Silence followed. The void, once filled with endless enemy ships, was now a graveyard of burning wreckage. On the bridge, the crew stared in awe. They had seen human firepower before, but never unleashed like this. Mark whispered, voice trembling, No wonder they fear us. But Hayes didn't smile. His eyes stayed hard, fixed on the drifting wrecks. This was only one fleet. The enemy has more. And now the galaxy knows exactly what we're capable of. Rourke tightened his grip on the alien device. Then let them know. If they call us monsters, let them remember we answer cries for help, even with fire. The survivors they had saved huddled together in the lower decks, staring at the humans, with awe and fear. To them, The Deathworlders were not just rescuers. They were avengers, wielders of unstoppable fury. But the cons chimed. A new signal came through this time, not from the Empire. From Earth Command, the voice was tense. Admiral Hayes. We've received word. The Council has declared humanity a rogue species. They've ordered all allies to cut ties. You are. Alone, the bridge froze. Humanity had just won its greatest battle, and now stood cut off from the galaxy. Hayes exhaled slowly. So be it, if we are alone. Then we'll show the galaxy what Deathworlders do when cornered. The crew stood. Straighter, fire in their eyes. They had unleashed their fury, and now the whole galaxy would learn to fear it. Asterisk. The final stand, approximately 800 words, the battlefield was silent. Wreckage floated like ghosts, drifting through the black sea of space. Human ships burned, but they still held formation. Survivors wept softly in the lower decks, clutching their children, staring at their saviors with a mix of awe and fear. On the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Hayes stood tall. His uniform was torn, smoke smeared across his face, but his eyes burned brighter than ever. The warheads had bought them victory, for now Mark Hensley broke the silence. Admiral, Earth Command confirmed. The Council has declared us outlaws. They've ordered all allied species to cut ties. No reinforcements, no trade, no support. The words hung like a death sentence. Captain Rourke's fists clenched. So that's it? We bleed for the galaxy, and now they turn their backs on. You? Hayes' voice was calm, but sharp as steel. Then we stop expecting help. From now on, humanity stands alone. The survivors they had rescued, thin, hollow-eyed aliens, stepped forward timidly. The silver-eyed girl from the ruins looked up at Hayes. Her voice shook, but her words were clear. Not alone. We will follow you. You saved us when no one else did. We owe you our lives. Her people knelt, heads bowed. In that moment, the bridge grew quiet. Even battered, even betrayed, humanity had earned loyalty. Rourke's jaw softened. Looks like the galaxy isn't as united as the Council thinks. Hayes nodded. Then we fight with those who believe. No matter how small, every ally matters. But before relief could spread, the comms flared again. A transmission cut across the wreckage, an enemy broadcast, the image of the Empires. Commander filled the screen. His armor was cracked, his face bloodied, but his eyes burned with hate. You think this battle matters? He snarled. You think your fire frightens us? We know your homeworld. We know Earth, and we are coming. The feed cut. The bridge went cold. Mark's stomach dropped. The room felt smaller, heavier, as the weight of those words sank in. Earth, humanity's cradle, their heart. Now marked for destruction. Hayes' voice cut through the fear. So, they want Earth? Then Earth will be ready. He turned to the crew, his tone steady, commanding. Send word to every colony, every fleet. The time of hiding is over. If the galaxy calls us monsters, then let them see the strength of Deathworlders. We will not wait for their war to reach our home. We will meet it head on. The crew straightened, fire lighting their eyes. Even in exhaustion, even with fear clawing their hearts, they stood taller. Rourke stepped forward, holding up the alien device. And we have the proof of their betrayal. The Council's lies will not stay hidden. When the truth spreads, more will come to us. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. Mark whispered, if we survive long enough for them to hear. Hayes placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. We will. Because survival is what we do best. Outside the window, stars glittered against the void. Somewhere beyond them, Earth waited. Somewhere beyond them, the enemy gathered. But humanity was ready. Hayes gave his final order. Plot a course for Earth. Rally the fleet. Prepare for war. The galaxy wants a final stand? He narrowed his eyes. Then they'll get one. The fleet engines roared to life, burning bright against the darkness. Survivors and soldiers alike braced themselves. The galaxy had turned against humanity, but humanity was not broken, Dot, as the Resolute and her battered fleet turned toward home. The comms sparked again. A new signal. Mark frowned. Admiral, we're receiving another distress call. Coordinates unknown. The bridge went silent. Another SOS. Another cry for help. Hayes smiled coldly. Then let the galaxy know every cry is answered. With fire, if we must. The screen faded to black. And in the silence that followed, the whisper of. The survivors echoed, the Deathworlders came. And the galaxy will never be the same.